are two ordinances that pertain to the San Francisco Super Bowl 50. Item 4 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to establish the San Francisco Super Bowl 50 Impact Fund to be used to provide financial support to small businesses specifically impacted by the Super Bowl-related events. And item 5, ordinance appropriating $100,000 from the general fund reserve to fund the Super Bowl 50 Impact Fund in 2015-16.
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, last week we held a hearing in the Budget and Finance Committee with regard to these two ordinances. The first ordinance creates a Super Bowl 50 Impact Fund. The second ordinance puts $100,000 into that fund, specifically for those individuals who I believe the city has a direct moral responsibility for, namely the 116 street artists and the other DPW valid licensees and permittees, be they food cart vendors, shoe shine people, who were displaced for a period of up to 24 days where they make their living day in and day out. This offers them really a very small modicum of support of $600 per valid claimant, not to exceed $100,000. Item number 4 also allows for other sources of revenue to the fund, be it contributions from the host committee, if it is so willing, from the National Football League, should it desire, or if revenues from the Super Bowl 50 related events exceed expenses as determined by the controller, this board could choose to appropriate additional funds to the fund. But at this point, it is really about showing that San Francisco is the city that knows how to take care of our own tenants, those 116 street artists who had already lost over 8 days to rain, some of whom we heard from in committee who had very compelling and moving testimony. This $600 is the difference for many of them to be able to pay their rent, some of them in SROs, some of them who have come out of homelessness. And I commend these ordinances to you and hope that you will support them.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you, President Breed. Through the chair, with all due respect, I'd like to direct my comments, my questions to Supervisor Peskin. I wasn't able to listen to the entire testimony last week in the Budget Committee, but I wanted to ask, how did you come to $100,000?
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you. Through the President to Supervisor Cohen. So we met with Tom DeCaney, who is here today from the Arts Commission. We also met with representatives of the Department of Public Works. We thought that that was the lowest amount to give some immediate relief to the universe of people who are directly impacted by the city's actions. There was testimony in committee from others as far away as the Castro and Fisherman's Wharf, who were not our permittees, who did speak to negative financial impacts. If there are sufficient funds, we can address those other companies and individuals, but we came to that after discussions with the Arts Commission, looking at the universe of primarily the street artists who have been our permittees and have worked there for decades, and that's how we came to that figure.
Thank you. You said something really interesting that strikes me. You talked about looking at the universe of permittees. How do you identify this universe, and how do we honor those that were adversely affected and weed out, I guess, those that are not really on the area?
Right. So there are 116 street artist stalls under the Arts Commission Street Artist Program in that location. In meeting, and we can hear from Tom DeCaney, but in meeting with the Arts Commission, they know who those individuals are under the program. Any application that is submitted would be reviewed by the Arts Commission and the Controller's Office, and I want to thank Ben Rosenfield for being willing to administer this program. As to the DPW licensees and permittees, those were numbers that were furnished to us by the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. Supervisor Peskin, I think this is a really good idea, and I'm excited, and I will be supporting this items 4 and 5. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. Supervisor Weiner.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We had a long discussion about this in committee, and Supervisor Peskin made some amendments that somewhat narrowed the scope in terms of who was really going to be eligible for these funds. And it is, I think it's a challenging issue in a lot of ways in terms of how to approach this kind of issue. And of course, this could have been negotiated as part of the host committee agreement in terms of compensation for specific merchants who were being displaced. But my concern here, and why I will not be able to support this legislation and appropriation today, is that it does really narrow it down to one class of merchants. And that was, Supervisor Peskin was very transparent in terms of his amendments in committee. The original language was much broader and would have allowed various merchants, including, for example, merchants in the Castro, to which the F market was cut off, which negatively impacted their business over the duration of that change to the F market. The original legislation would have allowed, I think, broader access. The amendments in committee really narrow it down and give full priority to the vendors at Justin Herman Plaza, and if they all submit for their $600, which presumably, if not all of them, the bulk of them will, that accounts for more than $100,000, so there would be no access for any other merchants. And so while I completely understand and respect the thinking behind that, I'm not in any way critical of the motives or the tactics of the author. It does leave me feeling uneasy about the legislation, particularly given that I have a particular set of merchants in my district who weren't just sort of theoretically impacted, who literally had a major tourist muni line, the F market, cut off, and they all saw a noticeable drop in business over the course of the Super Bowl period. So I will not be supporting this legislation today.
Thank you, Supervisor Weiner. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. So, as I said in Budget Committee, I fully understand the difficulties that the street artists face, and I highly respect them and have always, since I was younger, did my best to support them as well. And so I had asked the Arts Commission at Budget Committee kind of what was done before the event had occurred and what sort of outreach happened. And so I'm wondering if, for the purposes of our full board meeting, and I see Director DeCaney here as well from the Arts Commission, if you can just shed light on what outreach was done prior to the event to ensure that as many people as possible were not displaced from their locations.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. Good afternoon, Supervisors. Tom DeCaney, Director of Cultural Affairs at the San Francisco Arts Commission. As I reported at last week's Budget and Finance Committee, the Arts Commission first discussed the potential impacts of Super Bowl 50 on the street artist stalls in Justin Herman Plaza at a street artist committee hearing on November 4th of 2015. At that time, our commissioners discussed the potential impact of the Super Bowl dates in January that would potentially displace those artist stalls. We were still at that time negotiating alternative spaces with the Super Bowl host committee. In the end, we were able to allocate 10 new additional spaces near Super Bowl City, not directly within the confines of the city, but between Super Bowl City and the NFL Experience along Market Street. On January 4th, the Arts Commission sent a memo to all current street artist license holders, informing them that the Justin Herman Plaza would be occupied by Super Bowl City, and that during that period, license holders would not be able to sell in the plaza as well on Market Street between Stewart and Drum Streets. That's at the time when we notified street artists they could apply for those 10 additional spaces. By legislation, the street artist program requires a daily lottery, so no artist is guaranteed a daily location. They actually show up to 3 different lotteries in the city run by volunteers to actually draw their spaces for the day. That ensures a diversity of opportunities for artists on any given day to access those prime locations throughout the city, legislated by the board, as well as those located in Justin Herman Plaza under the jurisdiction of the Recreation and Parks Department. So the 10 spaces we negotiated with the Super Bowl host committee would enable artists to participate in Super Bowl week in the additional foot traffic, and those spaces were located on Market Street between 3rd and 4th Streets, and they were in addition to the additional approximately 100 spots that are regularly available on Market between 1st and 5th Streets.
And in terms of this fund, then, you know, I don't know if this question would be directed to the author or to you, but in administering the funds, what if someone, for example, was given this option of going to the alternative spaces, but maybe on their own will decided not to? Would they qualify for the funding?
We've been in conversation with the Controller's Office and with Supervisor Peskin's office to determine the best way to administer a potential fund. We are currently surveyed our street artists for those who could make a claim that they were displaced during that time. We've had approximately 150 respondents, and we're doing other data collection to determine which street artists typically would occupy a space in Justin Herman Plaza by looking back at historical data as well as current trends on the plaza. We're still working to finalize the most appropriate, fair, and transparent way to administer the fund, but we would imagine we would consider applications from potential street artists who would make a claim, and our advisory panel or our street arts committee of the commission would review those claims to award an allocation as deemed appropriate based on the board's designation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And again, I mean, I still don't feel comfortable supporting the fund or the allocation, but again, not because I do not respect the street artists and what they had to endure during this time, but there are a couple of outstanding issues for me. I think one is that perhaps another underlying issue that we could tackle another time, but just the fact that there is no kind of guaranteed space for these street artists and that they have to go through a lottery each time, I think is really challenging for them. So it's really hard to say that it was solely because of the Super Bowl event, or if it was because of, you know, the lottery system. I think that secondly, we haven't even had the report that is coming out, I think, from the Controller's Office about the economic generation that this event, I think some of us anticipate that there was economic generation from all of the Super Bowl festivities and what that would mean in terms of the city's bottom line and what we had expended. And I know there were a lot of concerns about that. But also, lastly, I think that my preference is that we work to address these issues before the event had occurred. And so I know there may be some disagreement about that, but that's just how I feel, is that we should make sure to take care of the street artists, make it as part of the negotiations when the events were coming to San Francisco. So at this time, I don't feel comfortable supporting those two items, but I hope that in the future we can sort out things beforehand in agreements to prevent the displacement of these street artists.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. Yes, I agree with Supervisor Tang that we should have taken care of this beforehand, like a lot of things we're supposed to be doing, and the fact is we didn't take care of it, and I don't think we should walk away from it personally. I just want to say that for the audience that's listening, that didn't listen to the Budget Committee, that we're really only talking $600-something per person. We're not talking like somebody's going to get rich over this. But this 600-something means a lot for these street artists. It could be half the rent, and we need to just support them before they all leave San Francisco.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to, through the chair, address the statements of Supervisor Tang. I completely agree with Supervisors Tang and Yee that the board should have anticipated, and the mayor's office should have anticipated, and the department should have anticipated the impacts to our own tenants, as well as the impacts to other businesses in the area. But the fact that they were not anticipated, the fact that this body did not require some payments to individuals who had been displaced, who, by the way, historically, when they've been displaced by films, have received $200 a day. That has been the Arts Commission's practice. But the reality is, when there is an oversight, or if I may be more frank, a mistake, It's not too late for us to fix it now. And let me say, in an environment where the arts and artists and small businesses are finding it so difficult to survive, much less thrive in San Francisco, this $600 is a symbolic payment. Many of them lost much, much more. You've seen the emails that we've all gotten in the last several days. Much more than $600. As a matter of fact, one individual sent us an email saying that $600 was an insult for what she had lost in that 24 days. But I think it shows that this city cares. At least symbolically, it shows that we care. And if for no other reason, please vote for items 4 and 5 for those reasons.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Roll call vote.
On items 4 and 5, Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Mar.
Aye.
Mar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Tang.
No.
Tang, no. Supervisor Wiener.
No.
Wiener, no. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos.
Aye.
Avalos, aye. There are 8 ayes and 2 noes, with Supervisors Tang and Wiener in the dissent.
The ordinance passes on the first reading.